The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people just never gave up. I've done over 8,000 real estate transactions in the United States and multiple countries, mostly in the United States. I currently own over 1,200 properties. Will someone give you the money to buy a real estate investment property? 100% they will. But I've made many mistakes in my real estate investing career. I'm going to share those mistakes with you so you can learn from those mistakes to show people how to start with no money and build wealth. Welcome to the Real Estate Doctors Podcast. This is my first ever podcast. I'm super excited to be with you. We are going to educate, inspire, and entertain you. I want to tell you what we're going to do here. One, I'm going to obviously educate you on real estate. Now, this is not the most exhilarating topic in the world, but I'm also going to inspire you. And what I mean by inspire you is I love to read and listen to inspiring people that change your mindset, that study the mind. And really, if you were to ask me how many, what kind of books do I read books about mindset, successful people, and less about real estate because that's what I do. So I'm going to talk a lot about mindset because you can try to get your money right, but if you don't get your head right, you'll never make any money. Now, the other thing I want to do is I'm going to entertain you. Now, how I'm going to entertain you is I'm going to have interesting characters on this podcast. Now, many of you know, or if you don't know, I live in Aruba, a Caribbean island for those of you maybe on the other side of the world. And we get interesting people to vacation here all the time. And as some people will fly in to do a show and I will interview them. And some people will just randomly be here. Like last night, I met somebody at dinner. They were super interesting. I said, let's come on the podcast and let me interview you. So once a month, we're also going to do one of these podcasts on the beach or at a pool or at a hotel outside so you guys can see the beauty of Aruba. Also, once a month, I'm going to do a question and answer. So you can always submit your questions to me. You can follow me on Instagram, realestateDoctor_, and give me any kind of questions you want me to answer here. But today, what I'm going to do here first is I'm going to introduce you to a lot of what I want to do with this show and who I am and my core values. Well, first off, a lot of people always ask me, like, what do I call you, doctor? My name is Jay. I'm originally from Philadelphia. Big Eagles fan, Really, they're not doing too well, so I don't know. I don't want to date this, but, we went 10-1 and then, shit the bed. I think I can say that on YouTube. But we'll see how we do in the playoffs. Not that hopeful. Now, this other hat here is very important, and I'm going to put some stuff here that really shows me as we build up this podcast. But this stands for the best day of my life. And this is something that I say every day. And any time anybody asks me, how you doing, I say it's the best day of my life. And people ask me, well, how can it be the best day of your life? And how can it be the best day of your life every day? Well, it's not the best day of my life every day, but it's a declaration that I declare in the morning when I wake up. You can declare that you're going to stub your toe and and have a bad day, or you can declare that today is going to be the best day of your life. And I will tell you, if you declare that today is the best day of your life, the way the universe will respond to you and how people will respond to you is going to be tremendous. A matter of fact, with a lot of my students, my non-real estate students, my life coaching students, I require them to say that on a daily basis for a week just to see the reaction they get from people and to see what's different about people. So back to me, and I will go on these little tangents, but that's me. Back to me. I've done over 8,000 real estate transactions in the United States and multiple countries, mostly in the United States. I currently own over 1,200 properties. I'm a landlord. I'm still flipping property. I flip, very little though, 5 a month, which for some people they think that's a lot, but I used to do 80 a month. I'm basically semi-retired down here on this beautiful island of Aruba. I have made you can't ever say every, but I have made many mistakes in my real estate investing career. I'm going to share those mistakes with you so you can learn from those mistakes. And I have to tell you that those mistakes and challenges are what has gotten me to where I am today and has changed my mindset to, without those mistakes, you can't get anywhere. You got to learn one way or the other. And one of the things I think a lot of people do is they don't make moves. And you can't be afraid to make moves. You've got to have to make mistakes to learn, to take yourself to the next level. So generally speaking, that's who I am and where I'm from and where I live. I also have a wife of 10 years and 2 beautiful boys. Those boys are 8 and 6. They're awesome. They're my best friends. My wife doesn't want me to put them on any social, so, unless you're like a personal Facebook friend, you're not going to see them. But trust me, my oldest one could run this podcast. He's pretty good. So let me tell you a little bit about, and let me pull up I'll move this over. Remember, it's the best day of your life. Let me pull up some of my notes here. I want to talk a little bit about my core values and my investing criteria here. So first off, I believe that you cannot be wealthy without owning income-producing properties. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't flip property, I don't wholesale, I don't, buy and sell mortgages. I do it all. But all of these things, if you're a flipper, a wholesaler, if you're almost anything, you wake up unemployed every single day. You have to create something new to make more money. Now, I will tell you, it is not super sexy to own a rental property and make a couple $100 a month, and you're not going to write home to any of your friends like, hey, I'm making $250 a month on this rental property. I actually thought, how I would become wealthy is I would just accumulate many of these properties and have such great cash flow, et cetera, et cetera. That's not really how it works, and that's not how you become wealthy. But how you become wealthy is that when you buy property, it goes up in value without you even doing anything. You make money while you sleep. So I am a believer. If you don't want to be unemployed every day, you need to accumulate rental properties. And I'm not saying that you can't make money at a job, and I'm not saying you can't make money flipping properties, but you can't just do that. You need to buy assets. And in the last 80 years in the United States, the average increase in value of property is 96%. 96%. So if you do nothing, basically it doubles every 10 years. Now that's the average of the whole United States. If you pick some better places, I can tell you I bought property and it's gone up 5 times in 5 years. So you're not making money with the $250 a month. You're making money. Well, you are making money, and you're making and you're going to have a tax deduction, and you're going to have a shot in the lottery that property goes up 5 times in value in a short period of time. Now, you're not speculating when you buy income-producing property. Those properties, I don't want my laptop to die, those properties will cash flow, and if they cash flow, you're not speculating. If they go up in value, they go up in value. If they don't go up in value, they don't go up in value. Now, one of my core tenets when I buy property, now everybody buys property differently. I like to buy property, one, with other people's money, not mine. I like to 100% finance it. That means I didn't, not only did I borrow the money, and that's one of the great things about real estate, is what other investments do people give you the money to invest in? Can you call your stockbroker right now and say, hey, I want $100,000 in Amazon stock. Will you give me the money to invest in that? No. But can and will someone give you the money to buy a real estate investment property? 100% they will. So one, it's great. Other people's money, 100% finance, but it must still cash flow, and you have to walk in with 33% equity or more. That's the only way I buy property. That's the only way I buy property. And some of you might be like, well, yeah, I would buy property like that too, but how do you do that? Stay with me, watch the podcast. I'm going to tell you how to do that. And a lot of you may be, I hear this all the time. They're like, I just can't find, property doesn't make sense. Interest rates are high. Nothing works anymore. This is BS. 62% of the United States deals are amazing. And I find deals, I don't even look for deals. Deals come to me every day. That's how many deals are out there. So anytime somebody tells me that they can't find a deal, what that really means is that you are geocentric, meaning you're in San Francisco, you only want to buy in San Francisco, and you can't find a deal. Are there markets in the United States or all over the world that don't work? Absolutely. But you need to be nimble. And in this day and age, you can invest anywhere. You don't need to be in San Francisco to invest in San Francisco. So one of my core beliefs is that you have to own income-producing properties, and you should be buying it like I talked about. Another core belief is really, this is probably the best advice. No, this is the best advice that I ever got in my entire career. Wait for it. Do not buy property that doesn't cash flow. Now, you're going to be like, well, no duh. Well, what happens to real estate investors is we get in different periods of real estate investing, you speculate, hey, I can put a deposit down on this, like right now, today, you can put deposit down on properties in Dubai. They will finance foreigners. And by the time those properties are done, they're going up in value. Well, guess what? That if that was your sole purpose of investing in Dubai, is that the property go up in value, and when it's done, you can sell for more money, or during that process, you can sell the contract for more money. This is complete speculation because the property could go down in value and the property doesn't necessarily cash flow. Well, this is not, the first time that there's been markets that you can do that. I mean, those kind of markets and developments have been going on my entire investing career, and that's 25, 26 years now. So, don't speculate in real estate. Only buy property that cash flows. And the reason I say that is, let's say you bought a property today for $200,000, and that property made you $800 a month net. You're walking away with $800 a month. And the market tanks in the next 6 months, and now somebody tells you, hey, Jay, that property you bought for $200,000 is only worth $100,000. Well, how much money do you make per month on that property now that the value went half, 50% down? Well, you make the same $800 per month. I usually let people sit on that, and some people say, well, you must make half. No, you still make $800 a month. So what do I care if you tell me that my property is worth $100,000 less? I'm not selling it. I don't need to sell it. And the only way you can get hurt in real estate, because if you look at the chart, it's up and to the right. The only way you can get hurt in real estate is if you buy property that does not cash flow. Because when you buy property that does not cash flow, and you get into these markets where, look, property prices for short periods of time always comes down, but then it comes back up. When you're in these types of periods, they're usually depressions or recessions, and you will also feel some economic influence. And when you feel that economic influence, you need to get rid of non-cash flowing assets, and that's when you will sell a property for a loss. So if you buy property that cash flows, you will never, ever, ever lose money in real estate because you're never forced to sell it. Now, also, well, I don't want to, I can go on too many tangents. Also, let me talk a little bit about mindset and what I think it takes, for somebody to be successful. First off, in any business or job or endeavor, you are going to run into, and I don't like to use the word problem, challenges. You're going to run into challenges, which are also opportunities. Now, all of these challenges aren't necessary. You can't make money and you can't deliver value to anybody if you don't solve problems, right? Some people don't want to deal with the problems or challenges. And what happens in life is you might be super busy. And if you are super busy, what you're not realizing, let's say you got, all kinds of decisions to make. People are asking you questions all day. That is because you are not making decisions. If you make decisions, you don't have to deal with 25 people asking you questions every day. A lot of times we just need to sit down and go, let me just make a decision. And we know what decisions we should make a lot of times. We just decide we want to delay those decisions. So it's very key that if you're going to do anything in life, be successful, be a business person, you have to accept the fact that there's going to be challenges. Now, don't take those challenges as a roadblock and give up. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people just never gave up. Where everybody starts. It's just a matter of where you end. Some people start, hit a roadblock and end, and some people start, hit a roadblock, keep going, hit the next roadblock and end, and some people just keep going. And if you keep going, you will become a better, stronger person, and you will succeed in life. Now, I mentioned a couple things. I'm going to talk about mindset, and some of the things that these are just occurring to me. I don't have any prompter here. Is words have meaning, and I could talk about this until I'm blue in the face. But you have to be mindful. This is very important, I think, for you to be successful. You have to be mindful of your words because your words don't just, well, one, they affect you. You don't know that they affect you. If you say, I had a shitty day, guess what? You feel that you got a shitty day. Now, not only do you feel that, let's say you're the head of the house. You're a husband, you're a wife, and you come home from work, you walk in the house, and your significant other says, hey, Jay, how was your day? And I go, man, I had a shitty day, right? First off, you have now reverberated this across the whole house. Now, maybe my wife had the best day of her life. Maybe my kids had a great day at school. But now daddy came into the house, he told everybody he had a shitty day, and I want to go home for relief from that shitty day. But what did I do? I just walked in and shit all over the house, right? You have to be mindful of your words because they affect you. People don't know how powerful two words are, which is I am. We say, I am depressed. I am anxious. I am this. You are not any of those things. You are only temporarily feeling the emotion of depression. That's it. You are not depression. You are not anxiety. You are not a nervous person. You are temporarily feeling nervous. And you know what? We all do. And we're all creatures of 5 billion years ago, and we have all these emotions that we have to deal with, and we don't know how to use them in the real world, the modern world right now. But don't kid yourself. Be mindful. You are not that. You are a magnificent killer. Well, let's not say killer. You're as great as anyone has ever been on the planet Earth, and you are exactly where you need to be at the exact time. That's how you have to think, and that's how you have to believe. And don't go around, my coach, I believe in coaching, I should talk about that next, but I have a coach too, and he says, don't go around shooting on me and shooting on you, right? You know, don't go around first with the words shitting on everybody. Second, watch your words. Don't say words like should, could, would. My children, look, they're not perfect, and I curse, obviously, sometimes. You know, my 8-year-old will curse. My 6-year-old sometimes will curse, and look, I correct them. You know, I'm trying to be a good dad. But you know what I do not literally will not be said in my house? Can't. You will not say can't in my house because there is no one that can't. You just do not know how. You just didn't figure out how yet. That's it. So even my children will tell me they don't say can't anymore. They say, Daddy, I just haven't figured out how yet. And that's true. That's true of us. How many of us say, well, I can't save money? First off, you lost the battle. Be careful of your words. You already lost the battle. You gave up right there. I can't save money. So you're not going to even try to save money. What you should be saying is, I haven't learned how to save money yet. And actually try to save money. These little things, your words, you'll catch them. And listen, I have to correct myself all the time. And I practice. I study this stuff. And you need to make a habit of it. Like for you to come on this podcast, and hopefully that I will inspire you throughout all these podcasts that I'm going to do and enjoy and bring you inspiring people. And we're going to give you habits. But you know what? If you just listen to it and then go right back to eating Doritos on your couch and doing nothing with your life, you're going to be nothing. You know, and listen, I'm not here to make friends. You know, I'm not here to tell you like, hey, that's okay that you watch Netflix. It's not okay. What you should be doing is trying to better your life. Now, listen, if you're a billionaire, you want to sit around, eat Cheetos, and watch Netflix, you've earned the right. You can do that. But if you're sitting there saying, hey, I want to change my life, guess what? It all starts with you. It all starts with you. So be mindful of your words. It's very important because it does not only affect you, it affects your family, and it also affects how other people want to interact with you. If I walk around all the time, somebody's like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, having a shitty day. Nobody wants to talk to people like that. But if I'm like, hey, I'm having the best day of my life. How about you? What's new and exciting in your life? Guess what? I want to talk to that person. I'm interested in that person. I'll give that person opportunities. I want to know more about that person. All you got to do is change your words. It's super important. So I said I'll talk a little bit about coaching just to let you guys know, I'm a coach. So I'm a real estate coach. So if you want to learn about real estate, that's what I do. You can check out my website. You can check out my Instagram, realestateDoctor_. You can check me out on all these other little things, like and subscribe and all that other crap. But I can pretty much teach you almost anything about real estate. And some of the things that I obviously love is income producing properties, but I also like to show people how to start with no money and build wealth. So at this point, let me finish on the coaching, then I'll tell you a little bit about my history, and then I'll try to wrap up so you're not too bored. So first, with the coaching, you can check out what I love to coach. And listen, coaching is a commitment. It's a commitment from you to the coach, and it's commitment from the coach to you. Like when I'm coaching somebody, they are the only person in my world. I'm paying attention to you 150%, and I'm going to give you everything you need. Now, if you're being coached for real estate or for life coaching, it's a little bit different. But when I'm teaching my real estate, I'm also life coaching, because you know what? If I teach you every technique in real estate in order to go from zero to real estate hero, but yet you don't believe you can do it, you have that limiting belief that you can't do it, you're never going to succeed. So for me, coaching has been life-changing for me. I just started to become coached probably 3 years ago. Shout out to my coach, Devin Bandison. He's the man. And I have to tell you, it's life-changing. And why is it that all the superstars in every sport have coaches, but yet business people don't have coaches? People, nobody has. You need a coach. Sometimes you can't see yourself from the outside looking in. Sometimes things are very obvious to other people that you need to do to correct yourself. Sometimes you can't hear what you're saying, and somebody else has to tell you. So, look, I'm a big coaching guy. You can reach out to me if you want to learn how to, anything about real estate. But also, I'm a business coach. I've had hundreds of companies, all kinds of different companies, and some have, failed, some have succeeded. But obviously, I've learned a lot, and I like to share, and I like to share with you, and I like to be a part of your life. So if you're interested in coaching, reach out. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my story about how I got into real estate and how I became so successful. First off, I grew up in Philadelphia, and we were poor, lower class. We were on welfare, and anybody that's been on welfare in the United States, you know what I'm talking about, the welfare cheese. I love it on a cheesesteak if you ever had a cheesesteak. But, you get the welfare cheese, you get all that welfare food. And you know what? Food stamps, the whole 9 yards. That's how we grew up. Now, I will say my wife is from a third world country, and she always says, listen, you can't say you grew up poor, you grew up in the United States. And, we did have a bathroom. She didn't have a bathroom. We didn't have to go to the river to take a shower. So listen, there's levels of being poor. I respect that and I understand that. But in the United States, we were poor. My family did a great job really getting us to be in the middle class. They got us to be in the middle class. Both my parents worked for a company called Boeing that makes helicopters and airplanes. I'm sure you guys have heard of them. And I was the first one to go to college. And, of course, I was supposed to be like the Einstein of the family, and they really worked hard and really wanted me to go all the way to college, and they wanted me to be an engineer. So I went to college to be an engineer. I did engineering for literally 8 days. And I said, man, this shit is way too hard. I'm out of here. I'm not doing this. I'm like, I don't know any millionaire engineers, but I know, look at all these business people partying in the business school. I know plenty of millionaire, billionaire business people. So I switched to accounting. Now, in high school, I was good at accounting, so I knew it would be easy for me. And so I went to school for accounting. I went to a university in Philadelphia where you actually work in, you go for 5 years, and a year and a half of those 5 years, you take 6 months at a time and you go work full time. And you prepare, the whole old school, like, get a job, get your resume, and you apply for these jobs. And I actually applied to work for the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. That's a great story. Mental note, we'll have to talk about that at a different one I hope that nobody will kill me from the CIA if I tell that story. But anyway, I interviewed for the CIA, and I interviewed for like accounting jobs, and I got an accounting job. I started working at an accounting firm when I was 19. And what was beautiful about working in an accounting firm is, especially now, today, in the world today, we got Instagram, we got Facebook, look, I'm talking to you right now on YouTube. You don't know, I could be totally lying to you about everything, right? Well, if you're doing somebody's taxes, they're not lying. If that person is putting on their tax return that they make $5 million a year, They probably make $10 million a year. So I was doing people's taxes that were very wealthy, and I'm looking at all these tax returns. And man, if you want to talk about being inspired, it's one thing to grow up and people tell you like, hey, look, you can be anything you want to be and blah, blah. And then, you know, every time you're hitting your head on a wall, you're like, yeah, well, how's that guy? Well, when you're literally looking at somebody's tax return that's making $30 million, you go, well, okay, it can really be done. And this is the person that's doing it. So I was doing people's taxes. I was super inspired by the amount of money that they were making. And to be mental note, you know, some of the people that I saw came in and paid the biggest income tax checks, wrote the biggest checks to the IRS. You would never know. They would never wear something like this. They would never wear something like this. They would completely be in jeans and cut off. It's just unbelievable. You can't judge a book by its cover. Now, one night, you know, you're in college. Back in the day, you know, we didn't have Instagram. This is like 1997, something like that. And I'm watching an infomercial, and there's a guy on there. His name's Carlton Sheets, and he has this no money down real estate. And man, that was appealing because I didn't have any money, you know. So I buy his course, I learn his course, and I'm aggressive. Like, listen, if you're gonna give me a tool, I'm gonna try it immediately. So I took this tool. I learned how to buy real estate, and I bought my first property when I was 19. So I bought a rental property before I bought a house to move into, and while I was in college. So I bought it with $1,500 out of my pocket, and I rented the house, Section 8, that's the government pays the rent for $800 a month, and I assumed somebody's mortgage, which, by the way, you can still do for anybody that doesn't know that. So I just took over somebody's mortgage. Matter of fact, I had a dream about taking over somebody's mortgage last night. It's crazy. But in any event, I thought I was making $200 a month because I was like $800 in rent, and I took over a $600 mortgage. But that's not really. You have expenses, you have management fee, you have repairs, you have this. But anyway, I was in the game. And honestly, I'm glad I got myself in the game. So I got in the game, and I thought, you know, I was the biggest real estate investor ever because I was making $200 a month, but I wasn't making, that's not real $200. I had a spread. Now, I get a phone call from my tenant. I'll never forget. I remember the address. It's on the 200 block of Weymouth Road in Darby. And I remember the tenant's name. Her name was Rhonda. And she called me, hey, Mr. J. And now I thought I was Mr. Landlord. It was my first property. I thought I was going to do all the management. Now let me take a step back because this is an important story. Before I bought this property, everybody that loved me, my family, the people I grew up with, they all told me, do not buy a rental property. You are not going to succeed. You're going to get calls at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're going to have repairs to do. You're never going to make it. You know, it's a nightmare being a landlord. But yet, all my clients in the CPA firm who were millionaires were telling me, oh, that's great. You should absolutely get in early. You know, everybody in the CPA firm that made money, even if they sold widgets, they had nothing to do with real estate. They owned real estate. They all talked about how much they loved real estate. And I actually was at a fork in the road here. I had a couple fork in the roads in this story, and this is why I'm telling this story. And I had to decide at that time, you know, do I listen to the people that love me but don't know, because these were not wealthy people. I love them all the same, you know, or do I listen to these people I don't know that are clearly wealthy because I'm looking at their tax returns? And I said, listen, I'm going to go with the rich people and trust that, you know, they know what they're doing. So I bought the rental property. I get a phone call from Rhonda. Rhonda says, hey, Mr. J, there's some kind of something in my laundry tub in the basement. I go to the house. It's like feces. Basically, it's shit in the tub. I have to clean up the feces. And I'm thinking I'm Mr. Landlord. Hey, I got it, Rhonda. Talk to you later. And I leave. The next day, she calls me back. Hey, Mr. J, it's back. I'm like, oh, that's really weird. So I go back, clean it up. Third day, Mr. J, it's back. Now I know I have a problem, but I have no idea what problem I have. So I call one of the guys who's a wealthy contractor in the CPA firm, say, hey, man, you know, what do you think this is? He said, have somebody go look and see, check the soil pipe from the house to the street. And basically, I didn't know this. And if you're a first-time real estate investor, don't get scared. It does happen, especially in the Northeast. There's a soil pipe, basically, that sends the feces out of the house from the house to the street, and a tree root went through the pipe, and now you had all this crap going underneath the ground, and they had to dig up the sidewalk, the street, the yard, everything. And it was a $6,500 repair, and I didn't have $6,500 because I was saving to buy a house. So I did have the money, but I was saving to buy a house I was going to move into. I had contracted, and I was like, boom. Automatically, I heard everything that everybody loved me told me. You shouldn't be a landlord. You don't know where you're getting yourself into. Listen, I only have a $200 a month spread. How am I going to pay $6,500? And, this was the second cross in the roads here. And this was probably one of the most formidable times in my life. I had to make a decision. Am I going to keep going or am I going to quit? And so I went into my boss at the CPA firm and I told him what problem I had. And I'm like, what should I do? And he said, what do you mean what you should do? He said, you got credit cards, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, listen, pay that repair with a credit card. You can write it off. You'll get a pretty good percentage of it back from the government. You need to refinance the mortgage that you took over because the interest rate is way higher. And that there's let me not go there. But there's an expression. It's called marry the house, date the rate. So, you date the rate. You can refi. When the rates go down, you can refi. So I refied the house. It went from $800. I had the same rent of $800, but now my mortgage went down to $400. And I made the repair. I bought the house I was going to move into. This is all at 19, by the way. And I met somebody earlier this year. They're like 18 and they bought a property. And I was so pissed off that I met somebody younger than me that bought their first property. But I give you a lot of props there. His name's Yanni, by the way. So I'm giving you props on my first podcast, man. But in any event, I refinanced this house. I got a better cash flow. I fixed the property. And long story short, 2 years later, I sold the property for $50,000 profit. Now, when you're 21 and you make $50,000, which is like 20-some years ago, which would probably be like $100,000 right now, when you're working at a job that in a year, you're only going to make $50,000 a year, the light goes off. And this was the crossroad for me. It was like, do I quit or do I keep it moving? And I kept it moving. I got a taste of that money from the real estate, and the rest is history. I bought many, many properties and did many, many different things, and we're going to talk about that in a lot of the future podcasts. But that's my first real estate story. That's how I got involved, and it wasn't all peaches and roses and cream and all that other stuff. It was tough. And I've had other challenging times in my life, and as we go through this podcast, I will talk to you about them and explain what I learned from them. But what I learned from that was, do not listen to people that do not know. People that love you, and they're not, I'm not talking about haters. I'm talking about people that love you. If they don't know, you can't take advice from somebody that loves you that never owned a rental property before. You just can't do it. Like, I understand that they love you and they have your best interest at heart, but they don't know. If you're going to take advice about real estate, you should take it from the real estate doctor. You shouldn't take it from your neighbor who is actually a doctor, who sometimes don't, they're good doctors, but they might not know anything about real estate. So for me, it was to listen to the people that know, surround yourself with people that know, and you're going to hit roadblocks. The key is to keep it moving. So I guess I'm going to end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed my first ever podcast. I'm going to continue this. The next podcast, I'm going to take some of your questions that we took from Instagram. Please follow me on Instagram. Subscribe somewhere, like and subscribe. I always love that because, when you get these guys, the techie guys behind you, they're always like, point there, and they're giving me the middle finger, by the way, But in any event, like and subscribe. And on our next podcast, we are going to answer your questions. And then later on this month, we're going to get outside. We're going to get you a view of Aruba and show you how beautiful it is. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to have to come up with some crazy tagline at the end of these, which I don't have yet. So thank you for watching the Real Estate Doctor podcast. Have the best day.